Hi, this is Rahman Sheikh. Welcome to Fortnightly Railway Transportation Systems podcast. I am the host and railway systems specialist. This podcast is primarily focused on railway experts who have vast amount of experience and contributed greatly to this amazing industry. This is not a technical seminar but focuses on feel good stories, individual journeys, their success and failures, motivating younger generation to kickstart their career in railways and creating a sense of pride for the railway people who devoted their lives on the most environment friendly public transportation. Scott Walker joins us on Railway Transportation Systems podcast as a senior project manager at Metro Trains Melbourne and a co-founder of Railway Engineering Solutions RES, the innovators behind Trax, a groundbreaking digital platform revolutionizing QA, compliance, and project handover processes in the rail industry. With over 40 years of combined experience in rail industry, Scott has played pivotal roles in major Victorian infrastructure projects including Cowfield to Dandenong level crossings removals, the Melbourne Airport Rail project, and currently the Metro Tunnel project. Hi Scott, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me on your fantastic podcast. Great to be here. Hopefully the listeners enjoy hearing my story today.
Definitely, Scott, and I'll tell my audience that you're a very techno freak person, very keen on technology. So let's start with your why did you start this whole railway engineering solutions? So, Scott, share your inspiration behind founding Railway Engineering Solutions and developing Trax.
For sure. Founding of Res and the creation of Trax was back in late 2019, where I met my two other co-founders. We'd all been on front line of rail delivery on major projects, signaling, power, testing and commissioning. So we had level crossing removals, Caulfield to Dandenong project. Over there, we saw a fairly simple truth. The teams delivering this safety critical and high pressure work were asked to operate in an increasingly digital world without digital tools that really worked for them. So we saw that need and we started something small, which we dubbed our Mark 1 of Trax. Now, this was a mobile tool built for ourselves on the Caulfield to Dandenong project and supported us across some of our day-to-day activities, signaling installation. And it was nothing fancy, but it worked and it reduced the pressure and it gave clarity in the chaos. And most importantly, it started to get the feedback from the industry and the peers and seniors in that they were ready to move forward. We founded the company working late nights to develop Trax further. And at the start, we had no idea what we were doing. And the first years were really, really challenging. And something that kept us going was we were focusing on something that we were going to use and the people around us. So we kept that in mind. And then from there, we just listened to the industry, iterated, we made mistakes, fixed them and kept going, got support from our families, friends, etc., and colleagues. And what emerged as of today is a central platform to run the rail infrastructure projects from early investigation, construction, etc. And we're using Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. And we focus on asset management, QA, GIS, project management. So we're across a broad range of uses. And these came up not from us strategically going after these areas. It was just from listening and hearing what the industry wanted and what needs still are yet to be met. And so we lean in there when we hear that. We want to lean into that conversation and try and solve some of those problems for the people in the industry. We're also working across non-rail projects. So we're helping out in major infrastructures through the station and the non-rail components. So we weren't here.
Amazing.
The one principle we have is we're not here to replace any of those legacy processes. We're not here to change some of those hardwired processes that make the railway as safe as it is. We're here to sort of support and work in with it where possible and support the people trying to deliver those. So it's calmer, clearer, more traceable, and then everyone wins. So that's what we sort of stand for.
It's a digital mobile platform. Yeah?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So do we need any sort of approvals, certifications to use that product?
Absolutely. For some occasions, you will need approvals from the rail representatives, from the operator, getting their buy-in. Every railway will be different to their level of maturity with using these sort of tools. So, we've had a lot of involvement with various rail operators to get their feedback, and it's been really insightful to work with them and understand what are their key focus areas. What are the key questions they need answered? A lot of them are thinking the same thing, so they're fairly aligned, but they each have their unique focus areas and concerns. Also, a lot of rail operators that we've talked to are at different levels of the major project delivery cycle. So, for example, Metro Trains Melbourne, we've had many decades of major projects, so we're very mature with that. Whereas other railway operators in Australia maybe haven't had that investment, so yet to really stress out their processes and have to look at why using technology to solve these problems. So they haven't. They're probably they're still finding their feet. Yeah, but we're here to help. It doesn't matter which phase the rail operator's at. We're here to sort of help with the sharing and the knowledge and get them all up to the same level of understanding. So we just have to have a conversation.
Beautiful. Thanks for bringing this innovation into this industry, Scott. Looks amazing. Let's delve deep into this. Before I go deeper, can you highlight some of the pain points on major rail projects that led to the creation of Trax?
I'll set the scene with the pain points we're seeing and hearing and addressing, and it's grown over time as we get more presented to us, and they're all about trying to solve and help teams in more spaces. So QA and signaling and TNC, originally this was paper chasing, so teams could execute flawlessly in the field. They still miss the handover because the documentation wasn't ready. So it doesn't matter if you've built it, it matters if you've actually got the paperwork to back it up. So in rail, not having live reporting on documentation means you actually don't know where you're at. So that was first key pain point. The second one, unlike civil works, progress in testing and commissioning isn't visible. You can't see how much has been tested usually. You see the forms and certificates and the sign-offs that prove that it was done. And most of that happens manually. So it's printed, signed, scanned, and filed across many sites, across the shifts. So there's lots of room for human error, but also a delay in how much you get reported upstairs to management. Then the managers are spending lots of time on administration in processing all that data, and that just becomes inefficiency. So we think, 6 hours or more a week if you're a works manager just processing the administration. And as the job gets more complex, that goes up. On the construction and TNC and certification, so those teams who are across that, they might be rotated through many different projects in quick succession. So sometimes in different states or time zones. So with no central node to get their information, because every project's using different tools or different file sharing systems, so it's scattered. You've essentially got to go on site to get the binder with all the information to do the job. And when they come back to the office, they could do the paperwork. Once they hit 1 to 2 hours per shift could be lost doing that paperwork and figuring out where they need to be going on the site that they might not have been at for very long. So a lot of challenges there for the site teams and pain points. And
I can relate that.
And then by creating Trax, we're strategically targeting those areas I've just run through. So it gives everyone a live view of the job. And the results speak for themselves. And the crews save paperwork and logistics time in their shift because they get to where they need to go. So, and then because when delivery flows, then the confidence flows. And then when the confidence flows, that's when the project succeeds.
Absolutely agree, Scott. Now that we covered pain points, can you elaborate the exact role Trax played in Victoria's Signalling Strategy Task Force and its impact on digital commissioning?
Thanks, for sure. So the SST was a task force set up to manage improvement standards, procedures and competencies in Victorian signalling. I'm sure some of the listeners have heard of the SST. I wouldn't profess to be across every single piece of their work, but that's the broad introduction. David will probably jump in if he thinks there's anything else. One improvement we were helping them with was around the TNC space, and it was an initiative called the TNC Digitization Project. So currently TNC is a paper-based process, as I've run through, and with paperwork instructions, and in Melbourne they're referred to as CTCs, which are the certificates. In other states, they might be called an ITF. The project's goal, so the TNC Digitization Project's goal, was to put through multiple trials and refine the platform Trax and develop up the functional requirements. And the intent is that we would have a system that would take the load off the TIC and de-risk all the manual effort the tester in charge has to do, the administration, the document control, the team management, so the platform could help the TIC. It would also give a really great way for clients and project owners to have a broad overview of all the commissioning strategy and commissioning plans going on across the network on a centralized database, and then help address some of those pain points that I went through earlier as well. That's what we set out to achieve. And we did that through listening and learning from the SMEs and leaders in the industry. So, and we had, as I explained earlier, we had to have a replica of the current paper process. We weren't there to change the standards or the process that all the workers are so familiar with. They've been working with for years. We're there to digitize the current format. And it's very challenging because there's things that were done on paper that were very hard to replicate in a digital realm. Some annotations people make with a pen, and they were deal breakers, so they had to be done. Otherwise, it would not be accepted. So we worked very hard to replicate it, and we ended up with a replica that worked. And we actually, because we're digital, we can also add in greater features. So now the users are able to attach photos and commentary and other users and share the document and save it digitally, and also have a date and timestamp of when certain things were done. A lot of that was not on. You don't get those features on a paper form. So we're adding a lot more compliance and assurance to an existing process as well by going to digitization. One thing we're really proud of is we're the first fully digital testing and commissioning event. So we believe that could be a global milestone. It's definitely an Australia one that we haven't heard of. So we're very proud of that. It was a lot of work to get there in collaboration with the level crossing removal group, MTM, the SST obviously, and Northwest Program Alliance with John Hollands there and Agonis. So that event wasn't just a tech demonstration. It was proof that we could actually change the industry and evolve, and we got a mountain of learnings out of that as well. It was a successful event. We left with a amount of learning, so it's given us some really good focus for what's next.
Yeah, amazing, Scott. You explained, apart from the role Trax plays, I think you actually explained the transformation Trax is doing in this industry. Can you touch on the day-to-day operations, how Trax has transformed?
Sure, absolutely. So we focus on a life cycle approach. So that's end-to-end from the original site inspection in your brown or green fields through to TNC, completions, maintenance. So this means all users are getting an end-to-end of the continuity of data as well. So we essentially are trying to build one super app, sometimes referred to, rather than breaking it down into having multiple apps, which means you have multiple interfaces. And as I mentioned earlier, if people are requesting things and have a genuine need, then we'll focus in on that space. It gives the delivery teams a live shared view of what's happening. So teams can see what tasks or forms they are allocated. The workers or the management can raise issues which are tagged to assets, and the management get live reports of status of works. So they can see top down what's happening and drill down into more detail if needed. One key improvement for operations could be before teams head to site, they open Trax to check the drawing package, previous photos, quality documents are ready, and see what the status is of everything on that site before they head out. So they get a really good brief and understanding of where the works were up to in the last shift. Nobody's then coming in blind if they've got that information. And as works are done, the QA can be completed, so the worker can tick off on their phone, take a photo, tag it to the asset they've been working on or the work instruction they've signed off. Mm-hmm. So those in the office or elsewhere can see all this happening on a live feed. So you're having a live download of what's happening elsewhere on the site. When on site, they use the map to locate their assets and get their turn-by-turn navigation, which is a massive time saver than asking, where should I go, or texting someone to find out. In Queensland, we did some signalling maintenance inspections and audits on a very remote mining loop site. All the assets on the site and the relevant Pacific National forms were loaded in a project, and the team completed in a package within the app off their mobiles, even with patchy or no reception, because we're fully offline. And once the job was done, we were able to export all the forms and the photos days later and submit that to client for their acceptance. So streamlining that project closeout. And now going forward, the maintenance team have a fantastic record of all the assets and the forms for future. So every time they go out baseline, they can work off. Now you've got this central data source. As the project starts to develop, you get this build up this central data, which is really easy to go back on. So you can store your records for the required 7 years, perhaps. But over that time, you've still got super easy access that you can pull up at any time for any audit or any inquiry or any checking that needs to be done. It's all there, and there's tangible benefits. So crews will save 1 to 2 hours of shift per shift with no admin. The works manager's saving potentially over 6 hours a week in reporting and data collection time, and as issues are flagged and resolved, 20 to 30% faster time to get those done. So streamlining handover. Yes, not every project it's adopted easily, so changes bring friction. There's some people are resistant to the change, and some teams were hesitant, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. So what matters is that we've demonstrated that have had some success, and we're showing how we're supporting the delivery rather than interrupting your delivery. Yeah,
amazing, Scott. Really, this tool looks really amazing. So when you said live, it means the tester on site is doing his work. The TIC from office can actually monitor it, and even the client can observe the testing.
Absolutely. Whoever's authorized to access the project could see the data and the live feed. So that could be helpful for very remote sites where the management can't actually be at the site office. Maybe the local maintenance representative can't actually be there, so they can see what's actually happening as it's coming through live and provide advice if needed or drill down.
Wow. Yeah. There's so much of stuff to take in. Let's pause for a minute and let's go back to the main question. What are the main features of Trax that differentiate it from traditional QA and compliance management systems? So I'm trying to understand what are the main differences.
Sure. All the years on project using QA tools and systems, I was never asked what I liked or what I didn't like. I was always forced to use a particular set of tools or Excel. So that was the toolkit, and none of the suppliers ever asked us what we liked. So straight away, what sets us apart is speak to the end users. So like the supervisors, the engineers or the project managers, we're keen to discuss with them what they actually need and how the tool's working well for them or what other improvements we could offer. So the old style of technology of a one-size-fits-all is gone. Now we're able to create bespokes for different projects and different needs, and that's been really successful. So we're really obsessed with about that end-user experience and making sure that it's effortless to use. And the feedback they give us is we treat it like gold. So we're trying to convert what they give us into workable solutions and then iterating. So recently on the CYP project, on the Metro Tunnel project, so we're supporting them, and they had to have a specialist way to import information and then show the data in the tunnel and station, bundled by room and section. So that way, when the user entered the room, they would know exactly which assets were in that room very quickly. So we can show that structure in our app and that would just be a couple of finger clicks, and all the assets were set up through Design Pack as well. So you could see which asset was in which Design Pack also. So that really helped them understand what they needed to capture data on and capture photos of. So we set that up in a way we could seamlessly import it out of their current system. And then once all the data was captured and the photos were captured in the field from within Trax, they had a special way they needed the data. So we seamlessly export it ready for them to use downstream to fulfill their completions needs. That required a number of sessions to work through the steps and exactly what was required. However, we were able to, within a matter of weeks, get something that they satisfied them, and now they're using it very effectively with minimal fuss. So a typical case of how we've lent in and helping out people on their projects.
You are definitely, Scott. Now we discussed about your tool versus traditional practices. Now let's go ahead in advance of the future. The future is, everyone knows, is artificial intelligence. So can you tell us how your tool can integrate with AI and its benefits for the users?
When people think of AI in the construction industry, I think it's really only just starting to gain traction in the construction and wider sort of major project industry. In some functions, people think it's just plugging questions into ChatGPT or putting a document into ChatGPT and getting some feedback. So this is a fairly basic use of a large language model based AI. And I think there's some massive opportunities beyond that to streamline operations or reduce risk or just manage projects. So for Res, our main focus with AI at the moment is actually on internal operations like our own software development. So there's a lot of really great tools that we use day to day to ensure that we can provide the best quality product as quick as possible to customers. I spoke before about the early cycle to get features back to customers. That is only possible with the use of AI. Otherwise, we would be stuck type situation and it would be months, not weeks to get back to them. Applications like Cursor, which is very popular in software, and Copilot with GitHub. So these are becoming widely used in the industry, and we've realized is the momentum of new code creates bottlenecks elsewhere. So we need to then review and integrate that code much faster than before because we've got so much more of it. So it just creates other challenges for us that we've got to work around. AI is yet to solve that though. In regards to integrating AI in rail, well, that's a different matter. Rail is very precise and accurate from a safety critical perspective, as is major projects and in the engineering space. So AI does get things wrong sometimes. It's not always 100% reliable, and these are sometimes referred to as hallucinations. We've targeted a few areas of AI in Trax with just simple but effective features of people in photos, so that if you export the photo, you're maintaining some privacy. You can't always get them to be no people in there, and also for doing summarization of the site diary based on activities that were completed that day. So we scan the work instructions that were signed off and then provide a verbal summary of the scope was contained in those. So small but meaningful when you're racing on the clock to have that. Real opportunities looking forward for major projects on embedding AI agents to support their key functions. So an AI agent could help onboard new team members, run training, or answer engineering questions like, have we seen this issue before, or where else in the design does this feature appear? And projects generate thousands and thousands of documents and designs. So I think where AI is very useful is scanning and summarizing vast amounts of information into digestible formats and working out what's important. So I think projects are would be a key beneficiary to doing that. Whoever, I think there's a lot of value to be unlocked here, and whoever can do this first will have a smaller team because the project team doesn't need to be as big, and which ultimately means a cheaper bid and would probably win more work. So it's an area we're very aware of and certainly thinking about. We haven't, and we'll maybe if the right opportunity comes up, we'll look at that further. Yeah.
100% agree. So let's keep our discussion on this topic. And would you mind sharing of any upcoming developments or enhancements you planned for Trax, particularly for this high capacity signaling projects?
Absolutely. So in rail, there's few delivery environments more complex than high capacity signaling, which is CBTC or ETCS, largely referred to. So it's where the software meets the infrastructure. We're still at the beginning of this journey to unpack what high capacity signaling means for a product to support it. But we're trying to understand the industry and what their problems are, and then where we could help first. As I mentioned, we're just listening and trying to bundle more services in and more value in to have that one super app. So to understand the problem in this space and where our focus needs to be across all the facets of high capacity signaling, from QA, the field status, the assurance, the site team coordination, the train testing, the log reporting, NCR reporting, closeout, a vast array of activities that have to occur. And what we do know is the testing commissioning teams are drowning in detail, and a lot of it is paper-based. So we think there's a lot of room for digitization there. So what's next for Trax? So we won't build this in isolation. We know the HCS teams are specialists, so we're trying to learn how they work and understand what are those key problems that we think will save them time, and from the rail from the project owner side of things, give more confidence on the delivery progress, as these are incredibly complex projects. So it's been a very enlightening start to unpack this. You've sort of got to build it from the ground up to understand it its most basic form. And we'll hopefully have some concepts to explore this space, sometime later this year or early next year. Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll wish you all the success. By the way, Scott, do you have any success stories or any case studies where Trax significantly accelerated project delivery or improved outcomes?
Sure. Let me start by saying that innovation in rail is hard. If it weren't, it would already be business as usual. That's what makes these stories more meaningful. Is not so much that the tech worked, but all the people came together to make it work and were so supportive. So one example we're really proud of is the Northeast Link project, one of the rail packages for that. This is real delivery under the real pressure. So a line upgrade to support where the Northeast Link was going over a rail corridor, and Trax supported in our system over 2,700 hours of work instructions, which we've documented the level of effort of each one, and over 3,700 high-resolution photos were logged. So that covers all of our installation, defects, DLAP survey, testing and commissioning photos. So we tracked, there was 246 signaling assets and 187 cables and 34 defects. So all of that data's was worked through and closed out in Trax, and all fully traceable and all managed from the field on mobile devices. And then where this actually really helps is obviously through the efficiencies I was explaining before on site operations, but then on the closeout. So 2 weeks after the final commissioning, the entire signaling quality handover pack was submitted. So the client was able to receive every bit of data within 2 weeks, which is pretty much unheard of. And it was fully auto-generated. So we have essentially a one-button export. So there's no formatting, no folders, no follow-up. And it renames everything, puts it into folders as you need it, and then we can zip it up and send it over to the client for review. So that was a real success story of using Trax. And I think the closeout of the projects is always so hard to get right, as people are keen to move on to the next job and get off the current project. So the faster you can make your closeout, I think, is a gift for everyone, so they can focus on getting the next job going.
Amazing stories and amazing insights, Scott. Now let's step back and talk on leadership. So you balancing leadership at Metro Trains Melbourne and then co-founding RES and working on an amazing product like Trax and also raising twins at home. How do you manage these diverse roles and responsibilities?
Absolutely. It's difficult. It's balance as well. So balance to me isn't about equal hours. It's more around meaningful ones. So there's no illusion here. Managing full-time leadership role and a business and having a family with young children is it's not a clean, easy setup. And my calendar's pretty challenging. At home, luckily, my partner's really, really supportive. Sarah, she's really invested in what I do on with Trax and Res, and she understands that it's a trade-off with the time I'm spending on Trax and the time with the family, which is really, really challenging. But we've been able to make it work. And at Res, I'm luckily enough surrounded by co-founders who carry the same weight and support. We all support each other equally. So Ben is a software engineering wizard, and Jaron, whose rail experience and product design vision is excellent. So we hold each other up and we cover for each other when we're each busy. So there's no heroes here. And it's definitely not smooth sailing across all these challenging environments, but there's equal good times to equal challenging times. But the good news is things always do work out if you keep an optimistic mindset. And what keeps me going isn't just work. It's a contribution that we're building something that's to support others. And project leads under pressure, engineering's working at night, certifies trying to get it right. That's what keeps us motivated. And
keep us motivating as well. Before I let you go, Scott, would you like to give an advice to the aspiring entrepreneurs looking to innovate like you or start a business in rail industry?
I'd love to. So I've got a big reading habit and podcast habit, so I could talk for hours about what I've been reading or listening to. So lean in and my recommendation is lean in and listen and learn about the history's greatest founders, how they started, what inspired them, and what they've created. There's a classic book called 0 to 1 from Peter Thiel, which is excellent for describing how to start a business going from 0 to 1 customer. So be curious, I think, is another recommendation. So be aware of what's going on around you, recognize when opportunity is because it could pass you by. Action better than strategy. So start building and talking to those around you. So you'll learn more in 3 months iterating a product and chatting to 10 users than you would if you spent 3 months strategizing about what product you would actually develop. So the key is to get out there and get talking to people, leverage AI and do that as a tool to iterate and develop faster. I can tell you now the whole industry is using it. So if you're not using it, you're actually at a disadvantage. So that is probably one tip, is to learn the trade of using AI and how it can leverage and make your life quicker to get what you need done. And start small as well. Don't worry about some manual processes along the way, but I think focus on an outcome that's small, and then you can scale from there and talk to people, as many people as you can, make a lot of calls. We got no's all the time. A lot of people have said no to us. It's a fact of life. All you need is a few yeses, and everything's okay. So just be prepared for that, and it just takes practice. And just bring humility, bring urgency. Just get to work.
Great advice and great insight, Scott. To be honest, I really loved talking to you, and I think our audience would also have loved hearing you. Thank you for your time.
Raman, thank you so much, not just for the conversation, but the way you ask questions. It's really rare, I think, in this industry to have a platform that respects the complexity of Rail and the people behind the delivery. So it's a real pleasure to speak about Trax and Res today and share some of the lessons we've learnt on the way. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from your future guests.
I believe everyone listening to this podcast has got something to take away from today's discussion. If you like this podcast, please listen, follow, and share this podcast within your network. If you believe we should be sharing your story or someone within your network, there is a railway leader who should be here sharing his or her contribution to this industry, contact me on railwaytransportationsystems@gmail.com. Thank you for your time today. Stay safe and take care of yourself.